Connects 2020 conference, brought to you by the Digital Council Africa and headline sponsor, Inc.
His Excellency, Mr. Augustine Kibasa Maliba, the Minister of Posts, Telecommunications, New Information and Communication Technologies for the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Dr. Ndabeni Ndabeni, the President of the Digital Council Africa, Dr. Ramaphosa, the CEO of Infrastructure, South Africa in the Presidency, Mr. Inoua Abdullahi, the Director General for National Information Technology Development Agency in the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Mr. Xolile George, the Chief Executive Officer of the South African Local Government Association, Ms. Juanita Clark, the Founder and the Chief Executive Officer of the Digital Council Africa, esteemed guests from the industry, ladies and gentlemen. 2020, the year of the advent of the coronavirus, may go down as the annals of history as the year that marked a leap forward in almost all aspects of our lives. The COVID-19 pandemic has led to a dramatic loss of human life worldwide and presented an unparalleled challenge to public health, food security, and the world of work. As everyone may recall, when South Africa declared a state of disaster and a lockdown on the 27th of March, little did we know that it would take this long, nor did we know what lay ahead. What I remember well is how, at the height of national panic, the South African Department of Communications and Digital Technologies, working hand in glove with the Digital Council Africa, set up the COVID-19 ICT task team, which became instrumental in guiding the industry through the early days of the hard lockdown of levels 1 and 2. This relationship continues to this day, and we value our working relationship and collaboration in navigating the changing times. Globally, the economic and social disruption caused by the pandemic is devastating. Tens of millions of people are at risk of falling into extreme poverty. Millions of enterprises face an existential threat. Nearly half of the world's 3.3 billion global workforce are at risk of losing their livelihoods. The informal economy workers are particularly vulnerable because the majority lack social protection and access to quality healthcare and have lost access to productive assets. Without the means to earn an income during lockdowns, many are unable to feed themselves and their families. For most of them, no income means no food. Thus, imminent second disaster cannot be rolled out. We must act now to avert that. Although the pandemic has decimated jobs and placed millions of livelihoods at risk, the digital revolution has transformed our lives and societies with unprecedented speed and magnitude. As part of the dictates of the laws of nature, COVID-19 has united the two opposites, namely the disaster challenges and immense opportunities. New technologies can make significant contributions to realizing the creation of thousands of new jobs and growth not only in the cities but in the rural and township economies, thereby achieving our developmental goals. To prepare for the unfolding future that has already begun, the South African government has published the Presidential Commission on 4IR report, with comprehensive recommendations. The President of DCA, Dr. Ndabeni Ndabeni, is a commissioner that has been involved in the work of the Presidential Commission on the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Among its recommendations is investment in human capital. In this regard, as I said in the gazetting, we have taken a conscious decision on not just the COVID-19 response, but also assisting South Africans to leverage on the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Ours is not just about technology, but ours is about the people who must utilize the technology in order to change their social and economic status. Our department is on the final stages of developing the National Digital Economy Master Plan. All these are aimed at preparing the ground for public and private sector, as well as civil society, to utilize opportunities that the Fourth Industrial Revolution has brought to the core. Today, the digital economy is largely touted to be one of the future saviors of our economy and a net creator of jobs. As digital transformation is at the forefront of every CIO and CTO mind, the integration of digital technology into all areas of business is about to fundamentally change how companies operate, and deliver value to consumers. Many of these jobs will require applicants to work from home. And of course, this means that we need to ensure that every person has a good and stable internet connection. It is pleasing to know that there are positive developments in the sector, which means that last mile fiber rollout continued with expansion shifting to lower income communities and townships. It is reported that several existing and new players are trying to find cost-effective and feasible business models to reach lower income areas. It is also reported that uptake in these income groups are even higher than that of high-income suburbs, where growth in digital services has grown by 40% mainly, contributed to COVID-19 people forced to work and school from home. Of course, to help speed up the rate at which we are deploying it to all our areas, the department released the draft rapid deployment policy earlier this year. Unfortunately, too often, local governments and private property owners seeking to leverage their control over property and other government-controlled infrastructure have imposed significant roadblocks to a broadband and telecommunications network deployment by delaying or even halting build or by charging unreasonable fees. In facilitating the rapid deployment of infrastructure during COVID period, the department had signed an MOU with Copter. The purpose is to harmonize standards relating to processes, timeframes, and costs applicable to approvals during the period of national disaster, subject to negotiations between the affected role players and the delegated body of the respective municipalities. For South Africa to remain competitive, there has to be focus on how to rapidly deploy dense mesh fiber networks, not just to serve fiber to the home, but also to support the evolution to 5G wireless networks. To achieve this aims most efficiently, 5G and all fiber providers will need access on a reasonable and non-discriminatory basis to public and private homes, ducts and conduits, and to commercial and residential buildings. The aim of the rapid deployment policy is to streamline cumbersome processes in order to speed up the pace at which operators are deploying infrastructure and provide timeous permissions. This is no longer a case of a nice to have, but a must have. We also support the development of a working group in the Digital Council Africa, working together to combat extortion by illegal business forums. This committee consists of the DCA members and other external stakeholders as its main objective to address the construction disruptions experienced by its members from business forums or similar groups that have a vast reach with a negative impact on construction of telco infrastructure such as fiber and tower networks. An industry best practice guidelines document was developed by the committee to aid members in how to most effectively connect in a positive manner with the communities in which there is any type of telecommunications related work. The document aims to achieve a high level of collaboration from communities and seeks to follow standard processes for engaging with local communities in a manner that is beneficial to all parties. The department has built a strong relationship with the South African Police Service, who is in the process of finalizing a standard operating procedure to deal with site disruptions. As we work together to overcome obstacles and extend the reach of connectivity infrastructure, we must also agree that the pandemic has affected our societies and has laid bare its fragility and, more importantly, our own shortcomings. Nowhere is this more evident than in the digital divide. During lockdown, teachers needed to deliver remote instruction, but their capacity to communicate with students depended on home internet access. 6.4 million children were excluded from online education as a result of not having access to the internet or not being able to afford internet at all. It should be our collective aim to bring internet access and devices to every household so that no one is left outside the digital economy. The pandemic is likely to be with us for the foreseeable future. Truthfully, these are still early days in this new digital era. and often we have more questions than answers about how to deal with the challenges. Given the absence of knowledge about the future impact of the pandemic and empirical evidence, as well as the rapid pace of technological change, policymakers face a moving target as they try to adopt comprehensive and inclusive policies relating to the digital economy. Globally, digital disruptions have already led to the creation of immense wealth in record time, but this has always been highly concentrated in a small number of countries, companies, and individuals. Meanwhile, digitalization has also given rise to fundamental challenges for policymakers in countries at all levels of development, trying to come to terms with measures to exploiting its potential for everyone and not just the few. This will require creative thinking and extensive collaboration between public and private sector. What is clear, though, is that the digital economy poses enormous potential for the people of this country, but calls for greater cooperation to avoid widening the income gap. In spite of these issues, South Africa has a vast national long-distance fiber reach exceeding 60,000 kilometers route length, owned and operated by a number of players including OpenServe, Broadband Infraco, DFA, Vodacom, MTN, Seacom, and Liquid Telecoms, amongst others. Government-led open access network development projects in certain large metros and provinces also contributed to the densification of fiber footprint. The notable projects in recent years include City of Johannesburg, City of Cape Town, eThekwini, Gauteng Broadband, and Limpopo Broadband networks. Growth of LTE reach with over 90% population coverage and launch of 5G fixed wireless access networks has driven the demand for increased backhaul capacity by the mobile network operators. OpenServe reported 7,704 base stations connected with fiber, and CIVH reported over 11,500 mobile base stations connected with fiber at the end of 2019. Therefore, at least 2/3 of the towers are estimated to have fiber backhaul connectivity. As mentioned earlier, our department continues its efforts to ease and accelerate digital infrastructure deployment. In July 2020, we released an invitation to provide written comments on proposed policy and policy direction on rapid deployment of electronic communication facilities, which aims to satisfy the public interest in the rapid rollout of electronic communication networks and electronic communications facilities. Feasibility study for the second phase of the South Africa Connect program, aiming to expand connectivity to more households and government facilities, has also commenced in the second half of the year, and I'm pleased to inform you that this will be finalized by the end of December this year. The invitation to apply for both high demand spectrum and the wireless open access network were both issued by the regulator, our ICASA, at the beginning of October 2020. Additional spectrum that is proposed to be auctioned in March 2021 and the introduction of a new wholesale operator are expected to drive demand and growth of digital infrastructure in our own country. According to the latest research from the Digital Council Africa, there is currently approximately 1.85 million homes passed, with an average of 41% of those homes connected. This is very much on par with global standards, and the DCA is expecting this to dramatically increase as work from home becomes a standard. Growth of data center capacity and improvement of standards is vital to support digitalization trends and evolving network architectures. The concept of data sovereignty is closely linked with data security, cloud computing, and technological sovereignty, and is fast becoming one of the bigger talking points in the sector. It is because of this reason that as the department we are now finalizing our draft data and cloud policy that will be shared with all sooner. South Africa has 21 co-location data centers, and data center investments have continued with expansion of existing data center capacity, as well as addition of new data centers. All round, the data center sector has shown massive growth with several notable announcements. IoT adoption has been a constant growth path in the past few years, driven by increasing adoption of tracking devices, wearables, and connected home devices. Industrial use of the Internet of Things has also seen growth from a nascent state, particularly with smart meters, agricultural sensors, and other smart city applications. There are several players who deployed and operate dedicated low-power wide area networks, Internet of Things, networks such as SquidNet. But we cannot take positive outcomes for granted. We must urgently improve connectivity to underserved areas if we are to achieve the full social and economic potential of digital economy while avoiding unintended consequences. In spite of these positive changes, there's still a significant amount of work ahead as we shift our focus to connecting every citizen. It is our firm belief that as long as we still have part of our citizenry left in the periphery as a result of the digital divide, our work is incomplete. Let us all work together towards building a capable fourth industrial revolution army in South Africa. I thank you.
Thank you for participating in this session of the Fiber Connects 2020 conference. Stay tuned for the next session.